Hello, and welcome to this another session on Docker. Uh, in this small, quick session, we will be discussing about how can we enable debugs in Docker. I mean, if you really want to understand what is going on exactly in background when we are running the commands, what exactly the Docker daemon is doing, we can check it out uh, by running few commands. So, in order to first bring up the Docker daemon in debug mode, we need to stop the already up Docker daemon. So if you go here, if you do ps grep Docker, we see here that the Docker is up and running. So we need to first stop the Docker daemon process. And how are we going to do it? There are two or three ways. We can either go to the JSON file and do some manipulations with the JSON file, or we can run this command and this will stop the Docker daemon. Now we want to bring it up in debug mode. So there are basically four different modes in which we can bring up the daemon. I mean, like four different logging levels in which we can bring up the daemon. Debug, it can be info, it can be errors or fatal. Debug is where all the possible information will be handled. Like if we are the next command to bring up this Docker daemon is docker d. Docker d is the name of the Docker daemon. That is the executable name of the Docker daemon, and dash L is the option which is used to specify the logging level. So here we can either put debug or info or error or fatal. So we have four different logging levels, but right now here we need to bring it up in debug level so that we can see what is when we run the commands, what is happening in background. So here as well we have two ways to bring up, I mean, like to to see what Docker daemon is doing when you are bringing up in debug mode. First is you can run it normally. Here this entire session will be occupied with the Docker daemon logs. Okay, so once I press enter, it will start. If you see, it will start bringing up the Docker daemon. You can also see that the debug prints are getting printed all over. So that now this entire session is occupied with the Docker session because I didn't run the command in background. If I would have to run the command in background so that I don't see anything, I should have done docker d dash l debug and then ampersand. This would have brought up the Docker daemon in backend uh, with debugs. So now this session, as I said, it is occupied by the Docker daemon. So now here we will see all the prints, whatever we run the commands, what's happening exactly in background, we can see it over here. So let's quickly try to run a basic, well, let's try to spin up a basic container. Okay, docker d ubuntu bin bash. Okay, looks good. We are spinning up a container of Ubuntu, and I already had Ubuntu in my repository, in my local repository, because in my local registry. So it didn't go to Docker Hub and try to download Ubuntu. It found it in the in my local environment, and also we have given dash d, which was the detached mode option, as you people would have already understood what dash d and dash it means. So it brought up a container. You see docker ps. So we have one container which is up and running fine, and in here you can see the traces which got printed. Everything is here. You see, The request, what kind of request was sent, what was result, what was returned, and everything. Whatever happened in backend, you can see it over here. So this is a great way to learn, and at the same time to debug. If suppose we are getting, if we are trying to run, if let's try to give some wrong input. Okay, so if I try to, like for example, exec it exec it b9b bin bash, we are inside this container, and the same would have been printed over here as well. You see std on bin, we are inside the container now. Exited, you see closing buffer std pipe. Now let's try to give wrong container id 134. It says no container id. Similarly, you'll say okay, buffer HDI, it tried to enter, but okay, there are no specific exceptions over here. But if you are trying to run some certain commands and you are unable to understand, for example, we clearly got a message, but if sometimes you don't really get a proper message that what exactly went wrong, you can go to this screen, you can check out what exactly call was done, and then by backtracing, you can get to the real problem.